Welcome back everybody, and if you are new here, welcome to my channel, Gochujang Mamá. I like to post all sorts of recipe videos weekly, so if you consider subscribing, please be sure to click that bell notification. Okay, today I'm coming back with another Huevos Rancheros video. Now, this way is probably what is a more traditional recipe for Huevos Rancheros. Now here is the video that I just did showing you a breakfast that I like to make, which is a play, I guess, on Huevos Rancheros, and that's actually the way I had them growing up more often than not. So what I'm going to do today is basically give you a more traditional version of Huevos Rancheros with a little bit of something that my grandmother used to do. I had a commenter in my last video that mentioned their mom or their grandmother would make this and they would add refried beans, and then on top of the beans would add chorizo. It reminded me that my grandmother would do this, and she would actually mix the chorizo with the refried beans. So that is what I'm doing today. Here is another variation of this delicious breakfast. What I'm going to do first is make tostadas out of my corn tortillas. I'm not making food for a lot of people, so a lot of what I'm doing today is just a smaller version. So here I have some corn tortillas that I'm going to fry in a shallow fry here. You can definitely bake these, or you can just buy pre-made tostadas from the store. Make your life easier, but I'm just going to show you this is what I like to do. I've basically added a couple of tablespoons of oil. I have the heat on a medium heat. I don't usually work with anything on high because I want this to toast up nicely. I don't want it to burn before I get a tostada out of this. So I'm going to take my time. This probably will take around a minute or so on each side. And then what I'm going to do is place them on a wire rack and let them hang out until I need them. Now moving on to my salsa or ranchero sauce. Now, this is more of a chunkier pan-fried salsa, so to speak, and I find this a lot more convenient and tasty on top of my eggs. So here I have a pan preheating, again on a medium heat, and I'm going to add a couple tablespoons of oil. Here from my last video I had rendered bacon grease, but if you don't have that, then you can just use oil. And now I'm going to add chopped onion, chopped Roma tomato, and chopped jalapeno. And like I explained in my last video, the spice level is up to you. You could use serrano peppers for definitely a spicier salsa, or you can just remove the seeds and veins from the jalapeno to have something mild to medium, and that's what I did today. So right into my preheated pan, I'm adding all of those chopped vegetables, and I will have weights and measurements in the description below. But like I said in my last video, sometimes I'm not measuring anything and I just sort of eyeball it because the ratio is definitely up to you and it's very forgiving. Now I'm going to add salt to taste, and I will also add 1 minced clove of garlic, and I'm just going to continue sauteing this until the tomatoes break down, the onions sweat out, and the jalapenos soften, and everything becomes cooked and sauteed. That may take around 10 to 15 minutes, and again I'm working with a medium heat. Okay, so my pan salsa is done, so I'm going to set it aside until I need it. Now I'm going to move on to making these delicious refried beans. So the beans that I'm making are super delicious, and if you have a chance, I hope you give it a try. You might already have tried these and grew up with these. But to start, I have a pan with a couple tablespoons of oil, and I'm going to saute just a little bit of onion. If you are not a fan of having chopped onion, then you can leave it out of the beans. I just like the flavor that it gives. So I'm just going to saute these for a minute or so, and then I'm going to add 4 ounces of chorizo. Now this chorizo is a store-bought brand. I like to make my own, but in a pinch, store-bought does come in handy. So do what you will. And if you do want a homemade chorizo recipe that is very convenient, I will link 2 versions that I've done. I've done a pork and I've done a turkey. I'll leave them in the description below. So all I'm going to do is break apart the chorizo and basically brown it and cook it through. Now, depending on the brand that you get, you might render a lot of oil. This particular brand is a local brand that I'm using, and it is minimally processed. So again, it just depends what you have readily available. So I don't think this is going to render a lot of oil, so I won't have to remove any of it. But there are some out there that are really high in fat ratio, so you might want to drain out any rendered fat from your chorizo so your beans aren't swimming in oil. Okay, so my chorizo is done. Now I'm going to add beans. Here I have around 1.5 cups of homemade CHARRO beans. That is another link I will leave in the description. And all I'm going to do is add it right into my chorizo that's already cooked. And I'm going to give it a good mix, and then I'm going to start mashing it. Now, you'll notice the beans that I had stored, they're really not that watery. They didn't have a lot of juice left. So I'm probably going to add 1/4 cup of water just to sort of make them a little bit creamier after I start mashing them. But depending on the beans that you use, especially if you might use something like canned beans, you definitely want to season to your preference. These are already pre-seasoned with salt and other seasonings and spices, so I'm not going to add any more seasonings or spices to this. So I'm just going to give them a good mash, and then these are done. Okay, so another part of this recipe is done. My beans are perfect, and I just literally could just eat these beans. They are so delicious. So now all I'm going to do is make my eggs, and the type of egg you want is definitely up to you. If you want sunny side up, over easy, over medium. My husband likes them over well, and so does my kids, so that's what they're going to get. Honestly, between you and I, they get whatever I can cook. Some days it's over medium, sometimes it's over easy. It just depends on how busy mama is. Okay, so I'm going to speed things up a bit, and I'm going to show you what it looks like. Okay, so at this point, my huevos rancheros are ready, and you can garnish with whatever fresh ingredients you like. And you could also use a melty cheese. I used Cotija cheese, but definitely use what works for you. So I'm digging in, and I'm actually trying this before I give it to my husband. I want to make sure it's good. So anyways, I hope you guys give this recipe a try. I hope you like it, and thanks for watching.